Hey guys, such an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with a Jhin updated complete guide. Now, as you guys know, with the addition of LDR in patch 3.5, pretty much almost every ADC wants to be building LDR now, and as a result, I'm pretty much going to be making an updated complete guide for almost every ADC, and today we're going to be covering Jhin. Now, first up, as a lot of you guys know who are longtime viewers of the channel, Jhin is one of my two favorite champions, the other one being Lucian. And secondly, the Wild Pass skin now features Jhin. So I just got that Wild Pass skin, didn't get the Ascended version yet, but I will be using the new Wild Pass skin, of course, also to test out in this first match to see how it looks like. Personally, I think that for both Jace and Jhin, I think that the standard version is actually nicer than the Ascended one, but that's just my opinion. But we're not here to talk about skins, we're here to talk about Jhin. So Jhin, unfortunately, even though LDR was included, has not really grown in power all that much. I mean, net for himself, he did grow in power, but compared to all the other ADCs, he didn't really, because every other ADC, or not every other, but almost every other ADC can also take LDR. So comparatively, he still isn't all that good. But at the end of the day, if you enjoy playing him and if you are good at him, he's still going to be a blast to play. You guys will see later in the gameplay, we have a ball of a time. Anyways, as usual with our updated complete guides, please do refer to the original complete guide for, of course, the leveling order as well as the skills and abilities in the interest of time. And with that, we'll jump straight into our build. Okay, so this is basically the build I'm using for Jhin now. Two things I want to mention right at the very beginning. First up is that Jhin can technically build lethality as well, but I don't quite like lethality all that much. The Ghost Blade can be fit in front of the crit build instead of going for a defensive item, and items like Edge of Night can be useful against certain team comps, and also other items like Serpent's Fang can be useful against certain team comps. But at the end of the day, I think lethality Jhin doesn't really scale, whereas crit Jhin scales actually really hard, and it's actually quite strong in the late game compared to lethality Jhin, which basically doesn't do very much in the late game. So I like to go for full crit. And secondly, Jhin currently has a bug which isn't even fixed in patch 3.5a, which is that, as you guys can see, LDR's passive Rapid Shot. If not engaged in champion combat, your next attack on an enemy champion gains 80% attack speed. Now, of course, Jhin cannot gain attack speed because of his passive, and he converts that attack speed into attack damage. So what should happen is that for that first shot when your LDR passive is up, you should actually be getting additional AD, and 80% attack speed is about 12 AD using Jin's conversion, so you should be getting about extra 12 AD on that shot. However, this is bugged and this doesn't actually work. So when you play Jhin with Lord Dominic's Regard, you will only get the armor penetration passive, and the rapid shot passive doesn't actually work. Now, even so, Jhin is still pretty good with LDR, and you still want to build LDR, but it's just that he could have been even more powerful, and when they eventually do fix the bug, he is going to be more powerful. So without further ado, let's get into the build. First up, we like to go for Stormrazor. Of course, Stormrazor gives you AD and crit. Of course, Jhin again can't gain attack speed, so he's going to gain even more AD, and you also get the slow. Now, next up for Jhin, I like to actually rush early boots, being the Boots of Furor, because Jhin has completely no mobility, and I feel that Jhin, one of his strengths is combining the Boots of Furor movement speed and the Rage passive, which attacks gain 30 movement speed for 2 seconds, combined with his passive, which allows him to gain movement speed when he crits, and also combined with the slow on the Stormrazor, gives him the mobility he needs to kind of kite around a fight and weave in and out to attack people, since he doesn't actually have any dashes. For the boot enchantment, actually you normally, of course, generally like going for stasis a lot of the time, but for Jhin, Proto Belt is actually a really good option as well, because as I mentioned, Jhin has completely no mobility, so with the Proto Belt, you can sometimes dash away, or even dash towards someone to like 4th shot them or something like that. Of course, QSS is also always going to be an option. And after we get the Stormrazor, we of course go for IE for more crit attack damage and increased crit damage. Very strong 2-item power spike. And then if there is a decent amount of armor on the enemy team, then you go for LDR. Of course, if there isn't, you can skip this item and move on to the next crit item first, but then you go for LDR, which of course gives you AD crit and armor penetration. And finally, I like to top it off with a rapid fire cannon, which gives you crit. Again, attack speed will be converted into attack damage, and also synergizes with the energized passive together with the Storm Razor and gives you a little bit of increased range as well. I love taking this item because a lot of the times you want to stay far back, and by the time you hit 4 items, Jhin's shots are gonna hurt. So if you can actually get the energized attack on like a squishy target, it can be like half of their health instantly. So rapid fire cannon is actually a really useful tool for you to hang far back and attack people when they can't attack you. The other option you have as a last item is actually static shiv, which I will never take because I always prefer rapid fire cannon, and also the Bloodthirster. So Bloodthirster and rapid fire cannon, technically it is a personal preference, but I do, as I mentioned, like taking rapid fire cannon because I like having that extra range to burst down squishy targets. Now, Bloodthirster is particularly good into very tanky bruisery teams. For example, let's say you have like I don't know, like a Riven top, a Darius jungle, a Galio in the mid lane, like a Leona support, and like an ADC. It's like 4 not necessarily tanks, but 4 tanky champions. Bloodthirster is going to be really good because you can't burst anybody down on that team aside from the squishy ADC. So Bloodthirster helps you sustain through a fight with that lifesteal. However, Jhin does really badly against tanky teams, so you generally don't even want to pick Jhin against tanky teams, which is why I like going for rapid fire cannon, because I'm always going to pick Jhin into a relatively squishy team, because Jhin kind of sucks against tanks. He doesn't do really well against them, at least compared to a lot of his peers like Vayne, Kai'Sa, even Varus, etc. So Jhin, I wouldn't be picking him, you know, into a tanky team. Finally, for our last item, you can go for the Guardian Angel, of course, for that revive. And other last item options you have is things like Edge of Night. For example, if your GA is down, Edge of Night gives you some form of protection as well with the shield. You of course do have Moral Reminder for Grievous Wounds. If you need Grievous Wounds, you do want to get Executioner's Calling, which is what you actually should be getting instead of Moral Reminder, and then selling it at the last item. And then we also have, of course, Serpent's Fang, which gives you the Shield Breaker. Now, I have tried out builds where I go like Storm Razor into Serpent's Fang, or Serpent's Fang first item into heavy shielding teams, like teams with Lux, etc. But I found that it doesn't go well. What you really want to do is get Serpent's Fang as a last item, not like a second or third item, because with Serpent's Fang, you scale really badly and you don't do a lot of damage. That's my personal thoughts, but of course if you want to go for Serpent's Fang earlier, that's up to you, but I don't like going for that personally. So now we're going to talk about his runes and his spells. So for the first rune, the Keystone, it's basically going to be Fleet Footwork. There pretty much isn't any other choice. Lethal Tempo doesn't actually help Jhin. He can't gain attack speed. Doesn't stack it quickly. Same thing with Conquer. He doesn't stack it quickly. So you might as well go for something like Fleet Footwork. And you could technically go for something like the new Phase Rush, but the movement speed is a little bit of overkill. You already have a lot of movement speed, like with your Brutes of Fury, with your passives. So I don't necessarily think you need Phase Rush. So Fleet Footwork, of course, what it gives you is a heal and a little bit of bonus damage. So you do get that from the Fleet Footwork. Now for the Domination, you actually have quite a bit of options. So I like going personally for Hunter Vampirism because you don't really have lifesteal in this build, because I don't build Bloodthirster and you don't build Gluttonous Greed, so you don't actually have any lifesteal. So I like going for the Hunter Vampirism for that lifesteal, so I at least have some form of healing. But a lot of other strong options are like the new Brutal is actually really painful in the laning phase, and Jhin is really strong in lane, so Brutal can help you destroy the enemies in lane, but you know, it's pretty much only for early game, so that's not really good. Something like Triumph is really good as well, because Jin's 4-shot does missing health damage, and combined together with something like the Triumph could, you know, let you deal a huge burst of damage and also heal you after kills. But I think this is one of the worser options. Your 3 best options are this and the next 2 I'm going to be talking about, which is Weakness. Now Weakness of course gives you increased damage to champions that you slow or immobilize. So Jhin has a slow on his auto attack with Storm Razor. He has a root on his W, he has a slow on his E, and he has a slow on his ult. So the only thing that can't trigger it is Q. So you're basically going to get permanent 5% damage increase against the whole enemy team when you're attacking them, which is why weakness is really good, but again, I chose to take survivability over damage because you already have a lot of damage. And lastly, you have the Giant Slayer, which again, if you're against a relatively tanky team, you do want to take this. At least two people that you can proc Giant Slayer on, not just one, at least two people you do want to take this. But again, I generally don't pick Jhin into tanky teams. So for Resolve, I now like taking the bone plating on basically everybody, but your second best option is gonna of course be something like Nullifying Orb and then Hunter Titan. But I love taking bone plating now. It is amazing in lane and in team fights as well to just block a lot of damage incoming. And for the last rune, it's pretty much going to be a choice between Hunter Genius and Mana Flow Ban and also Nimbus Cloak. So Hunter Genius gives your ability cooldowns a little bit faster, which is helpful. Mana Flow Ban actually gives you mana, and Jhin actually runs out of mana, decently fast, not too quickly like Miss Fortune, but also doesn't have unlimited mana pool, so decently fast. Mana Flow Ban does help. Nimbus Cloak, of course, is always going to be useful. When you cast spells, you get extra movement speed. Personally, I like to go for Hunter Genius. So for the spells, Flash and Exhaust, don't really need to explain that, but with all that out of the way, we can move on to talking about the gameplay. Okay, so here we have the Jhin gameplay. Now, as usual, don't forget to, of course, like, comment, and subscribe. And any questions, queries, or remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will be sure to address them or heart it. So, alright, so here we are, of course, rocking the new Wild Pass Jhin skin. Unfortunately, I don't quite have enough for the new Wild Pass trail yet, so unfortunately, we have the Jace trail with the Jhin skin, which sort of doesn't look too good. Anyways, that's not really important, it's all visual. We're gonna jump straight into the lane. So here, it's a really interesting lane that we have because we have Leona Jhin, who is a pretty much all-in kind of lane, versus a Karma and Ezreal, which is a poke lane. So in theory, this should be a really bad lane for us because all-in lanes, when they get poked, they can't really go all-in anymore because they don't have the health to do that. But it is a very skill-dependent matchup. So if Ezreal and Karma can't land poke, then technically they will be at a huge disadvantage when we do go all in. So we'll have to see how that goes. In the meantime, all we're gonna do is just sit back, relax, and pretty much just farm the minions. We don't necessarily have to do anything. Another kind of perk about Jhin Ezreal is that Jhin and Ezreal both don't scale the best. They both scale decently, like Jhin and Ezreal both do well on 3 items, but they are not as good as someone like Jinx, Caitlyn, or Kai'Sa on 3 items, for example. So they're okay. They're not like horrible scalers like Draven, but they're not the best either. They're kind of middle of the pack. So here we have Leona going in. I get the root on Ezreal. Of course, I'm focusing the ADC. Now that he's out of range, I'm focusing Karma instead. We get rooted, but it doesn't matter because I'm just standing still auto-attacking anyways. Karma left at 1 HP. I'm going to flash over and finish off the kill on Karma. Again, Jhin attack speed problems. Just standing there and trying to get my attacks out. In the end, it ends up being a 1 for 2 trade. I'm sorry, which doesn't quite work out well for us. Good news is at least I got the kill, Ezreal did not, whereas on their side Olaf got the kill. Actually, I think Olaf is a really strong champion at the moment. We'll talk about it in the tier list that we'll be doing eventually, but yeah, Olaf I think is a pretty strong champion. In the meantime, nice gank by Evelyn in bot to get Akshan a kill. We're back in lane and we're gonna of course just clear this huge wave that has piled up when we died. And in this team, we have like 2 tanky champions. We have the Darius and we have the Olaf, but I still decided to go for Hunter Vampirism, and I'm also, of course, gonna try to focus the squishy targets like Akali and Ezreal instead, because Jhin does very well against squishy targets. He's not the worst against tankier targets, but he's not the best either. So, of course, we do want to focus the squishy targets regardless in the general match anyways. So, yeah, no big deal there. And yeah, so of course Jhin has no mobility, so you never really want to pick Jhin in a matchup where you have no frontline. In this matchup, we do have one like Leona, and we also have Morgana to give me the black shield, hopefully, if, in hairy situations. But you never want to pick Jhin in like a situation. Let's say if I had Enchanter support here, I would have no frontline. I don't want to pick Jhin because obviously you have no frontline and you can get focused really easily. So here Evelyn goes in for the gank, and here I ult to secure the kill onto Karma. Ezreal tries to get away. In hindsight, I should have actually not cancelled my ult because he pretty much would have had no choice but to run back toward his tower, which is where my ult was pointed to anyways, and I still had like, I think 2 more shots, or even maybe 3 more shots on my ultimate to spare, and he would have eventually had to walk into the ultimate range, which basically would have meant that I wouldn't have needed to waste the ultimate, and I might have been able to get the kill before Leona died. But hey, that was all in hindsight. He could have run the other way as well, so no one really knows. If I hadn't cancelled my ult, he might not have run back into the tower. So anyways, it all kind of works out. We pick up the kills, and I do get enough for Stormrazor and my boots. So it's a pretty alright start to the game. We got, 1 kill, 1 death, and then now we got another kill. So it's pretty much all good. So here, of course, we have Dragon and Herald about to spawn, which of course does mean that it's kind of time for team fights soon. But one thing about Jhin that's really important that I do want to point out is that Jhin is pretty skill shot reliant. You have to be able to aim your ult, and you have to be able to aim your W. Technically speaking, you can still contribute to the team just by using Q and autos, something like that. But without you hitting your ult and hitting your W consistently, you're losing a lot of the value of Jhin. So why are you even picking Jhin if you can't aim? So you don't really want to pick Jhin if you're the kind of person that can't really hit the skill shots. Like same as Ezreal, like if you can't hit the skill shot, you can't play Ezreal. So you do need to be able to aim with Jhin. And with Jhin, it's a really big challenge because your W has reaction time and your ult has reaction times. It's sometimes hard to actually hit those abilities. But we do quite a good job in this particular match of hitting those abilities. Here, one of the ways you can hit them, guarantee the hit, is of course to launch it at someone who is already, stunned or rooted, and that guarantees you'll hit your W. So here we managed to finish off Karma with our 4th shot. I think Evelyn actually missed the ult there, so I was able to get the kill, and this basically should transition to a dragon. Unfortunately, the enemy team throws a spanner in the works because we're all really low, and Olaf is trying to run us down. He gets really low as well. But basically, now our whole team decided to reset, and the enemy team is also starting to respawn, and it's basically going to be another 5v5 pretty much at the Dragon Pit. So we haven't really talked about the traps, but one of the good use of the trap for Jhin is just to use them as wards. Like you don't necessarily have to use it for the slow or the damage, but some good use is just to use it as wards. Like here I put a trap, not there, but just now near the honey fruit, just to check the general dragon area. And in lane, I also like to put traps on the side, like in the river. Here, Evelyn goes in. I hit the root onto Ezreal. Have to blow the flash because he went out of vision of my 4th shot. I ended up 4th shotting the minion. So I have to blow my flash to get the kill on Ezreal. He is eliminated from the equation. Olaf comes in from the side. Because he activated his ultimate, he is pretty squishy, so we get the kill on him as well. We get the black shield from Morgana, and here I exhaust the Akali so she can't actually do damage, and Evelyn picks up the kill onto the Akali. Here, unfortunately, very nice ult into the apprehend from the Karma Darius, but Karma does go down, and so does Darius, and pretty much this is a delayed ace where Ezreal and Olaf has just respawned. So technically it's not an ace, but it's sort of a delayed ace, and this finally does give us the Mountain Dragon. So now that a wave has pretty much accumulated here I spot a low HP Ezreal, so here I'm gonna of course try to ult him, and there you go, we hit him on the 4th shot. So 2 hits, 2 misses. As I mentioned, it's quite hard to hit Jin's ultimate, but it does make it easier if you hit one of them because they do get the slow. So here Olaf is running my team, and the healing he's getting is insane, and my whole team ends up dying to him. I try to help them out, but I end up pretty much getting chased down and dying to him as well. Olaf picks up a triple kill, and Olaf, goes now to 4-1. So big trouble for us in that sense. So yeah, Olaf is really strong at the moment, and it's a huge problem because Olaf with his ultimate can pretty much just run me down, and I can't really do anything about it. Neither can like anyone else, or like Leona, she can't peel for me. Neither can Morgana or whoever else, because he's unstoppable. So that's not good. So here I spot a huge wave in bot, so I'm just gonna go over to bot and pick up this wave. We don't want to waste the gold. Next wave comes in, and we're just gonna farm up this wave as well. My team is fighting in mid lane. Evelyn gets a pick on Ezreal, but Olaf is coming in, and so is Darius. We're gonna see if we can hit over to mid lane to help out. Here, of course, I'm trying to target Olaf because I do want to get the shutdown on him. I hit a shot, but he runs out of the range. And he uses the Scuttle as well as Darius' help to actually prevent himself from dying from the Akshan ultimate, which is pretty lucky. I thought he was confirmed dead. Instead, we're going to get a consolation prize of Darius by rooting him in place for my team to follow up with the damage. Here I 4-shot the tower, get the movement speed to move out of tower range so I don't actually get hit. And with that, we can just recall and pick up. I believe I should be able to get IE now. Yep, so here we have IE on the 2-item power spike. Gonna build towards our next item, which is probably gonna be the boot enchant. In this game, I actually decided to go for stasis because I can stasis Karma Ultimate and I can stasis Akali's General Burst. Although Proto Belt would generally be a little bit more helpful for me to run away from Olaf. But yeah, so here Akali pretty much nearly kills Leona and Evelyn in a 1v2, which is not great. So I decide that, probably it's not the best idea to mess with Akali, so I'm gonna just back off. And yeah, so in the meantime, because we're all top, the enemy team is able to pick up the Rift Herald. It's a necessary trade. We tried to get a pick on Akali, but didn't quite work out. So here I'm just gonna help out the Evelyn a little bit by helping her auto the buff. And then I'm just gonna farm up the Gromp here. Evelyn spots Ezreal walking toward our jungle, and she thinks that we're gonna get a pick on Ezreal. However, we spot Olaf coming in from the dragon side, so we're not gonna do that anymore because Olaf is a big problem. Ezreal, however, manages to still get himself caught out. I hit the root from downtown. This is what I was talking about. You gotta be able to hit the root. If we didn't hit that root on Ezreal, he might have been able to get away. So here, we're just grouping up with our team, and a lot of the enemy team is around this area as well. We do want to head over to the mid lane to stop them from pushing into tier 2. Of course, Rift Herald does guarantee the tier 1 mid tower. Nothing we can do about that. But we can stop the tier 2 mid crash from the Rift Herald. Also, the wave is coming in, so I'm going to quickly just clear up the wave. My team ends up getting into a fight, trying to hit the W from far away to stop the enemy advance. Now, we're getting chased down by the enemy. Akali flashes away. Darius can't quite reach me. I managed to 4th-shot him. I open my ultimate to try to hit Darius or Akali. Still trying to aim for Darius, and I end up actually missing the 4th-shot on the Olaf, but still getting him with my basic attacks, mainly because I expected Olaf to step forward, but he got rooted by Morgana, so my own team's CC sort of backfired against me because I was of course trying to predict movement, and that was where Olaf would have been if he didn't get CC'd. So unfortunately, kind of just an unfortunate situation. Of course, I'm not blaming Morgana for rooting Olaf, because of course that's what she should be doing, but it's just kind of unfortunate that that happened right as I was trying to predict he was going to walk up one step. So anyway, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We do still get the kill on Olaf. We also get that huge juicy shutdown. And yeah, so here just clearing waves as usual, letting Leona proc the support item, which is at this point still not fully stacked yet. The next dragon is coming up in 20 seconds, so we are trying to get ready for that next dragon. And we're trying to make our way to the dragon area through our jungle. Of course, with Leona leading the way, our main front line. So here, unfortunately, we're kind of not in the position to contest. Morgana shields me really early before the fight even starts, which is kind of a waste. And the whole enemy team is already on the dragon, so it's really hard to actually enter the pit. Evelyn is in stealth and does actually manage to get into the pit and steal the dragon. Unfortunately for the enemy team, they did have the control ward, so they did see her coming. I exhaust the Olaf to prevent him from doing anything to my team, again using the ult to get the Darius. I managed to actually zone Olaf into my team using my ultimate, so he can't actually run away, and he ends up dying to my team. I wasn't able to get the kill on him myself, but all the same, my team manages to pick up the kill onto the Olaf because he couldn't actually run away. Akali is the only member of the team left alive, and you can see briefly in vision near the crux that she is actually pretty low HP. You can also see, of course, with the replay tool that she's really low HP. There we go, we can see briefly that she's low HP. So this means that it's quite safe for me to go for this mid lane tower, and my team can take top lane tower in the meantime. And with that, I can, of course, simply just recall and reset, get myself some items. Enemy team does respawn and stops my team from recalling, but I myself am going to be able to recall and pick up the Lord Dominic's Regard, which will of course be really useful against Olaf as well as Darius. Darius does have Dead Man's Plate now, and Olaf has GA, so decent amount of armor for me to shred through using the LDR. In the meanwhile, I'll just farm up the jungle and the available camps. And yeah, so here we're doing, of course, we're doing really well. We're 10, 2, and 7 at this point with the stasis, with triple crit items completed. So we are in a relatively good spot at the current moment. All we gotta do is just not get caught out, because as I mentioned, Jhin, you're really easy to catch out Jhin. Now here the enemy team actually goes onto Baron. Evelyn pretty much goes in by herself. I'm going to support her with my ultimate from behind and actually blast the invisible Akali on accident while aiming for the Darius, which is kind of lucky, I guess you could say. So here my team takes down the Karma, and I see a lot of low HP bars. I flash in and take down, I forgot, I don't know who that was, but I exhaust Ezreal and we take down Ezreal as well. Here I'm predicting the movement again. I missed the W because Morgana hit the root and Darius wasn't able to actually step up to where I was actually aiming at, so kind of kind of two unfortunate misses because of Morgana hitting the root. But again, you know, it's good that Morgana hit the root. And here this allows us to take a free Baron because the whole enemy team is dead, and we do get ourselves the Baron, so we're in prime position to win this game. And we aren't even able to get both components of the rapid fire cannon. And yeah, it's all going great. So now we're gonna head over to pick up the red buff, of course, because we're doing really well, and we have an Evelyn in the jungle. You know, of course, Jhin uses red buff way better than Evelyn. And yeah, so at the same time, we're also farming the Krugs. We're just trying to get up to the rapid fire cannon, which I think we are gonna get after the Krugs. Yep. So yeah, we're gonna recall and pick up rapid fire cannon. In the meantime though, our whole team has Baron, so we don't want to really start a fight without me around, because I am pretty much the main source of damage for my team. Akshan's doing pretty well as well, but I think I'm gonna be doing more damage than Akshan at this point, especially since Akshan has Black Cleaver, so not fully damaged, a little bit of utility as well. So here we're gonna just pretty much just run down mid using our Baron buff. As you guys can see here, and we are really strong now. I managed to actually hit the 4th shot onto onto Olaf for the kill, and here we managed to kill Darius. I even get a free shot in on Ezreal to force him to pretty much just run away. And with the Baron, we should be able to guarantee at least inhib. Only Ezreal and Akali are left up. Ezreal takes a big chunk of damage from Morgana's W there, and I spot him, and I am able to land the root onto Ezreal, which allows Morgana to finish him off, and he is down. Only Akali is left up and available. There was actually a decent chance we could have forced a end here, but instead we decided to go the safer route, which is to pick up the top lane inhibitor as well. Enemy team is all starting to respawn, so we're gonna have to try to burst this down as quickly as possible. So I used the 4th shot, quickly trying to burst it down, and we are able to pick it up before the enemies can really respond. Darius tries to go straight in, and he's gonna tank a lot of my damage. Olaf flashes in, I exhaust him and flash out of Karma's ultimate. We are able to pick up the kill on him. Here I'm trying to get the kill on Akali, and finally I managed to land it on Akali because Darius is not blocking anymore. And only Akali and Darius is up and available. However, Ezreal has just respawned, so the root does land. And here I was thinking of just forcing the end, but I think we honestly could have forced the end, because Jhin does a lot of damage onto the base. So if my team just stood in front of me, I think that we could have actually ended the game here. But instead, my team actually decides to back off from the base and instead go for the dragon. Now, inexplicably, instead of clearing the 2 super minion waves that's pouring into their base, the enemy team actually decides to come and contest the dragon. You guys can see as Akali has come, Ezreal and Darius are also here. And not too sure what the plan was for them here, because Olaf is dead. So Akali tries to go in to steal the dragon. They do manage to kill Leona, who was zoning them away, which is fine. Leona for a dragon trade is worth it at this point. We get triple dragon. Furthermore, cementing our position as the winning team of this match. But not too sure what the game plan was there. If I was their team, I would have given the dragon and instead just tried to defend my actual base. But yeah, so here we're gonna let Evelyn, of course, take the red buff because there is buff sharing now, so no point to deny her the red buff. So here I'm almost towards the GA, which is why I'm kind of trying to take all the camps. But here the enemy Darius is around the area, and we don't want to do any funny business despite wanting to get gold for GA. So here we're seeing what we can do. Ezreal is in the top lane, so we do know the enemy team is split up, whereas we are all grouped up except for Leona, who is of course dead. So we did manage to get out Karma's ultimate there. Nothing too much came of it, so that's really good. We wasted one ultimate, which is pretty crucial for fights because Karma's ultimate is pretty big form of CC. Right, so here the enemy team is split up. Here me and Evelyn are going for the pick onto Karma. I see the Olaf right in front of me, so I have to cancel my ultimate and quickly just blast him down and run away. He almost instantly burst me down, but doesn't quite manage to do so. And again, we're left in the same situation where only Akali and Ezreal are left alive. So again, this time we're going to actually force the end of the game. Here I'm just focusing the base, as you guys can see, and there we have the end of the game. So alright guys, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual, and goodbye.